Welcome to Love Talk. My name is Gregory Morgan. I am the co-founder, along with my wife, Dr. Azita Sayan, of Embrace Growth. And together, we do seminars and workshops all over the world on relationship. The reason why people find themselves acting in new and different ways that are more conducive to the lifestyle that they've designed for themselves, more conducive to a lifestyle that is empowering, that is ennobling, that leaves the past in the past where it belongs. And you don't get amnesia, you don't forget the past. Of course you remember the past, but those past experiences that you may have had that have been a source of hindrance or holding you back or fear, trauma, a lack of self-esteem, those kind of experiences that people tend to hold on to. We hold on to them because we want to make sure they never happen again. We remember them because we want to make sure we conduct our behavior, or that we detect in the behavior of others those types of behaviors that might give us those negative experiences, and then we can avoid them, control them, manipulate them, or in some way dominate them or avoid being dominated by the people who display behaviors that may give us negative experiences. That's how we learn. It's great. However, that operating system, it's like a computer, it's an operating system in your computer, is outdated. That operating system is based on a very primitive human model designed to have you survive, to have you not die, to make sure you have food and clothing and shelter and sex so that you and those that you consider to be important could continue to survive. That's the old model, and luckily we've had that model because we're all here, yes? It's a good thing that we've had this model of survival because as a species, we're quite vulnerable. We don't have large teeth or big scales or huge legs for running. We don't have long claws or anything like that might defend us against some of the other predators out there that might consider us food. So as human beings, we've managed to survive by being able to perform what we call abstract thinking. Abstract thinking it gives us the ability to look at things that are about to happen or that are currently happening. In other words, look at the present moment, compare it to a large stack of memories that we have stored all throughout our neurological system. A lot of people may think that memory is just in the brain or that it's located only in the brain. Our only evidence for that is that there's activity in certain portions of the brain when one is accessing their memories. However, it's not necessarily stored in the brain. In fact, there's a lot of evidence that it's not. They've done experiments with lab rats in which they've taught them a task, and then little by little, it's a terrible experience. It's a terrible experiment, and I don't approve of this kind of experimentation. However, they've learned something from it. They took away bits of the rat's brain, and it could still perform these things that it had memorized until there was hardly anything left but just a stem, a brain stem. So memory is stored in the body. And my evidence for that is that as a dancer and a martial artist, somebody who played guitar and piano and who's played instruments, I know that my body remembered the movements. My brain couldn't remember all these things. If you asked me to repeat them, I'd look in my brain and wouldn't be able to remember them all. But my body could remember 20 hours of ballet, or my fingers could remember 2 or 3 hours of guitar music, just playing song after song. I know that it was memorized by my physiology, by my physical being. So memory isn't necessarily in the brain. That was maybe a little aside. The point I'm making is the difference between transformation and learning to cope with the past is vast. And I was talking about how we as human beings have developed and survived in nature and grew to be the dominant species on the planet because we have this ability to remember negative or painful experiences, compare them to what's happening, project by imagination and visualization into the future, compare these images, either avoid danger or predict danger or actually figure out what some other animal or creature is going to do, and therefore, if we were the predator, capture or kill them so that we could eat them, okay, rather than being eaten. So it's a good thing that we have this ability. However, it's very, very primitive. It's been around since before we had vocal cords for speaking, since before we had language. Language, as far as we can tell, has only been around for about 40,000 years, that we can have any evidence that people were actually talking in language. You know, before that, we don't have any evidence that people even spoke. You know, they communicated through their eyes, through their body gestures, through their movements, through tonality. So they were able. We've been able to communicate for a long time in just those ways. How we conduct our relationships, how we conduct our businesses, how we marry, have sex, relate to our children is based on this ancient model that's designed simply to have us survive. Now, there's survival as an individual. You know, on a very individual level, we only care about, I need to get some food for myself right now so I stay alive. Some food and some shelter or whatever it is that you need physically to physically stay alive as a biological being. And that's one very, very gross level of survival. To tell you the truth, you, if you're watching this broadcast, probably don't know anyone except tiny infants. We're all like that when we're infants. We don't care about anybody else. We only care about getting food. And when we display those little flirtatious, giggly, cute things that babies do, it is to give food and be loved and protected and survive in a world which is clearly controlled by a much bigger people. So you probably don't know anybody that's on survival level 1. You know, even people that are living in the street aren't necessarily on that survival level. They can be very entrepreneurial and they can have relationships. Survival level 2 would be simply, I take care of you because by doing so, it helps me stay alive. So there's relationship based on, I have to keep you around and keep you alive and happy, and I have to make sure you don't kill me. And I don't kill you so that we can stay alive. And because we are together, we're alive better. And then the next level up would be tribe. And in the tribal level of consciousness, in the tribal level of humanity, in which most third world countries find themselves, and most countries are still in a tribal culture. And I'll describe a tribal culture for you. In a tribal culture, the order of the day, how we survive is we make sure that our tribe survives. Our tribe, our family, our culture. We make sure that it survives, and that's our main concern. And how we know what is right and wrong is not because we look inside and we decide for ourselves. No. In a tribal culture, the tribal leader tells us what's right and wrong. And because the tribal leader says it's good or it's bad or it's right or it's wrong, that's how we know what's right or wrong or good or bad. And everybody follows that. And you could be prosecuted, persecuted, killed, cast out. Any number of things, bad things can happen to you if you don't follow the tribal leader and the tribal order. Now, I'm saying this for your benefit because most of the technology that you've heard, most of the healing technology, most of the psychological technology, most of the philosophies and religions that you've ever heard in your life, for most of us, I'm speaking to a very intelligent crowd, so many of you are very educated and have heard a lot more. But I'm talking about how most of it comes down. It is coming from a tribal mentality. Like, let's keep our people, let's cause the survival of our family, our people, our unit, our culture. And everyone that's outside of that, well, we don't care about them too much. We have to deal with them, but we don't really care about them or their survival because they could become our enemy in a second. In fact, we kind of consider them enemies because they're not us. So given that type of thinking, there is very little inside of that would engender or would encourage you to think for yourself, to listen to your own heart, to go inside and listen to your own truth and make your own choices and decisions based on what that voice you hear inside yourself. In fact, in many cultures, if you hear voices speaking to you inside, they'll lock you away. You know, they have a good case for you're insane, right? And so you have to be very careful in that type of a culture and that kind of an atmosphere when you say that my inner voice tells me this, or I'm listening to my heart and my heart says that what the tribal leader is telling me is not true. It's not the right way or the good way. Then you could be in big trouble. And as you know, a lot of people are in big trouble for opposing certain tribal leaders. And for that reason, Embrace Growth exists. And my wife and I do the work that we do as a direct confrontation, really, to that type of thinking. As a direct confrontation, not to destroy that thinking, but to enhance that thinking, to cause a transformation where that type of thinking can move to the next level. And there are next levels. There's 8, 10, 12 levels of evolution of thought and values that I'll share with you on another show. Perhaps I'll do a whole show on just the values level. I have in the past, but I could do another show on just the values levels. But I will go so far as to say there is a fourth level, and that is the level at which you as the Iranian culture have found yourself at this crossroads, and that is where you say, I'm tired of being told what is right and wrong by the tribal leader. I'm tired of it. I don't believe it's right. I can see for myself my own inner truth, my own sense of value, my own connection with God, with spirit, with what is right and wrong, tells me that this is not right, that this is wrong. And I don't want to stand around and have my life taken over by a tribe or a tribal leader that I no longer share their value. Now, for those of you who share those values, you're welcome to have them. But there are some who have stood up and have said, I no longer value this. This is not my value. This is not what I understand or believe or feel inside. And that is a fourth level of values in which there are the youth of a culture, the youth of a tribe, which stands up and says, I will no longer follow these rules. I will make my own rules. Now, this level also has its limitations, which is more than we'll go into today, okay? This level also has its limitations, and its limitations begin with now the people that are on, let's call it level 4, they get together and they say, we only value people who value level 4 thinking. In other words, the only people that we really care about are the people that think like us. So they cut themselves off from other ways of thinking, and they become the future tribal leaders, you see. They become the future tribal leaders. So they start their own little revolution, or big revolution in some cases. They start their own revolution, and then anybody that's not in their revolution is against them, and they're not thinking correctly. So if they're not supporting us, then they're against us. And that is a type of thinking that is necessary in order to separate yourself from the old way of thinking. However, it is not something that will last throughout time. There will be a new way of thinking that will arise, a level 5 way of thinking that will always arise within that and move on to a newer stage. We'll cover that in another show. I just wanted to begin the show by talking about these values because the work that we do at Embrace Growth is specifically to address the limited thinking that you and I have inherited. I grew up in a tribe as well, and most of us have grown up inside of some kind of a culture or a family or a religious belief in which those people that raised us believed that their way was the right way and the only way, and that every other way was wrong. And many of us, and I believe that if you're watching this show, probably you've begun to think differently now. I'm going to assert, and my evidence for my assertion is that you're watching and listening, if you're watching or listening to this show, you've begun to think for yourself, and you've begun to question some things. And so I congratulate you for that, and that's great. The next thing for you is to begin to take your thinking and to stand for it, to be responsible for it, to actually claim your own thinking and your own heartfelt feelings and inner knowledge. You see, there's thinking and then there's having thoughts. There's a distinction between thinking your own true original thoughts, really thinking, which is a lot of hard work, or regurgitating somebody else's thoughts that you've heard or read or been told or picked up somewhere along the way. That's not really thinking, that's having thoughts. And most education is about having thoughts or learning other people's thoughts. Very little of our education is about tuning you in to your own original heartfelt thoughts. And that's what we do at Embrace Growth, and that's what I wanted to tell you about. And that's what you can count on from me. Now I'm going to go ahead and take some calls. Hello, this is Gregory. You're live on the air.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gregory. I love the way you explain it. You know, the bad feeling or the bad thought is always is one of the things is really bothering me. I was not a good single mother, or I ruined my son's life, or I ruined my life because I didn't know better than that. It really sometimes gets so much energy from me.
And those go on and on like that, right?
Explain it right now. But what is I know that's only a feeling and it only as a thought, but what is how should I pray a lot to stay away from that thinking. But what is another way, like I'm studying, I'm going to school right now, I'm 52 years old. But what is another way except praying to get away? I mean, like stay away from those kind of the thinking.
Oh, that's a great question. And what are you studying in school, by the way?
Oh, I'm getting my bachelor's degree in nursing.
In nursing, okay. So you like to take care of people, yes?
Yes, I love. I used to. I was in the politics for 12 years, and then I came to the nursing, field, and it looks like it. Like it.
Yeah, great. Excellent. Well, okay, so your question was what are some ways that I can get outside of that kind of thinking that I call it looping, kind of like a tape loop on a machine that keeps playing the same tape over and over, yeah? That's a great question. There are many techniques and technology. I use NLP and hypnosis as a way of breaking the thinking. So if you had a CD, or let's call it a CD, since I used to use the example of records like LPs, but we'll use CDs, okay? And you put it in a machine, it's always going to play the same song, isn't it?
Yeah.
It never play another song, it always plays that song. And so we in our thinking have certain patterns that are neurons firing in a certain sequence that give us these thoughts, and those patterns are stored in images and words in our neurology, okay? They're stored in your body. So you lay down at night, or your daughter or son calls and you have a thought, oh, I wasn't a good mom, or any number of things will trigger that, but it's a thought that's just waiting to happen, you see. It's not an original thought. It's a thought that came with your programming. It's kind of like, when you buy a computer and they've put a bunch of programs in there for you already. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the default programs that are in the computer when you buy it from the store. We as human beings sort of come with some default programs as well. And most of them are just about having us survive, get by, make it, not fail, avoid being dominated or dominating others in order to avoid being dominated, usually. Those are default programs. Part of the work that I do is I work with people to go to break those patterns. So when you have those thoughts and feelings that you weren't a good mother, let's just pick that one, okay?
Okay.
That I wasn't a good mother, I messed up my kid's life or whatever. When you start to have those thoughts, how do you know when it's time to have that thought?
How do I know when it's time? I really don't get your question.
Exactly, because it's not in time, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah, just by asking a question like that, your brain went zzz and sort of shorted out part of that program. So how do you know it's time to have those thoughts? If you had those thoughts, what higher purpose would they serve?
Like higher purpose? I really don't get your question.
I understand. So they serve no higher purpose, do they? Those thoughts that I was not a good mother, they don't serve a higher purpose.
Right. That's right. They don't have any purpose. Yeah, that's right.
They serve they have a purpose, but they have no higher purpose.
That's right.
Right? They have a purpose. The purpose may be to help you feel bad about yourself, or right, to cause you to doubt yourself or to have low self-esteem. So they do serve a purpose. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to have low self-esteem and feel bad about yourself and doubt yourself, it'd be good to keep those kind of thoughts around, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. How come come those thinking comes to your mind when you are studying? When you are with other people or you are working, it doesn't come to your mind. Why, when I'm studying, it comes to my mind? Why, when I'm tired or lonely or hungry, it comes to my mind?
Well, because they're your old friend. They're like, like your old, it's like a trunk full of old memories that you can open and, oh yeah, I was a bad mom, oh, there's that thought. I was single, so I really probably screwed it all up really bad. You go through this trunk of old memories and you ressentir is the French way of saying it. You resent or re-feel again those feelings, and they serve the purpose of keeping you small. Now, it's interesting that while you're studying, in other words, you're attempting to expand your mind, expand what's possible for you in the future, move forward into something that is pleasurable and happy and makes a difference for other people, cause a good effect in the world, and as you're doing that, the part of you that wants you to stay small keeps reminding you. Remember, you weren't very good at being a mom, It's not your friend. It's like some negative thing that whispers in your ear to remind you, oh, you weren't so good, you were a single mother, you screwed that up. So it's a part of us that when we try to grow, it'll try to hold us back. So is it true that there's a part of you that wants to expand and make a difference, and there may be another part of you that doesn't think that you're worthy of that?
Exactly.
Yeah, and those two parts of you are working apart, but they are working towards the same level, towards the same ultimate goal. The part of you that is worried about everything and that whispers negative things in your ears and like that part of you, if I were to be in a session with you, the sessions that I do with people in which, that are called advanced neurological repatterning, we would get to the core of what purpose does that thought or that part of you serve? And it would be something like to protect you, to keep you safe, to keep you from making mistakes, something like that. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, it's usually something like that. It wants to keep you safe. And if I was to ask it so as to what, and for what reason would you want to be safe and so forth, you would eventually start answering questions on a much, much higher level so that I could live a full and happy life, so that I could be fully self-expressed, so that I could share my wisdom with others and help their lives be better, right?
Yes.
That would be a higher purpose for this negative thing. And then if I was to call out the positive side of you, the part of you that wants to be a nurse, that wants to get an education, that wants to move on in life and make a difference for people, and I ask it, why? Why do you want to do that? It would have the same answers. Do you understand?
Yes.
So that I could be fully self-expressed and happy and financially secure and make a difference for other people and leave a lasting legacy in the world and cause other people to be happy and fulfilled, right? You would find that these two parts of you that are working separately, one that we might call the negative you or the positive you, right? That they're actually working towards a common goal and that you actually have more in common than they do apart, but that they've been working against each other, pulling against each other, and that once these two parts of you begin to come together and work together so that you see the negative for what it is and you see the positive for what it is, but you know that it's all working towards a higher good, then something happens in your neurological system that was not possible before.
Okay.
Like one part of you is going down this road and another part of you is going down this road, and they end up being on the same road, and all of the power that you were losing over here and over here come together, and there's a synergistic thing that happens that I call a breakthrough. And a breakthrough is not just sort of getting better or overcoming something or learning to deal with or tolerate some hindrance or holding back. No. A breakthrough is when what held you back in the past no longer has any power to hold you back and joins in with the positive side of you that is moving forward, and you don't just go twice as fast, you start moving at an exponential rate. You start growing exponentially, and it happens in an instant like that. It happens very, very quickly. When those two things come together, there's such energy and power. People usually start laughing and crying or something at the same time. It's very powerful, cathartic moment when people break through to a whole nother level of consciousness and awareness, and resources that they didn't even know they had begin to break through to the surface. All kinds of things that you never would have imagined are available to you. New levels of intelligence, new levels of physical well-being, the ability to heal yourself and to heal others, like really. The ability to see into other people and have compassion and be able to see what's making them work and hear them for what they're really saying, because now you're connected with your own true self. Are people happier in that state? You bet. Does it mean they have no problems? No, of course they have problems. As long as you're human, you're going to have problems. But the power and the ability to deal effectively with those problems is off the charts. You know, it's like going from being a beginning swimmer to being a champion swimmer. You know, or somebody who can barely ride a bicycle to somebody who can ride with no hands and, you know, without thinking. It's the difference between, like, do you drive a car?
Yes.
Yeah. Remember when you first tried to drive a car?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was scary. You didn't know how to do it, and you probably ran off the road and who knows what, right? It was a terrifying experience. And now you probably drive the car and talk on the phone and put on makeup and drink coffee and everything else at the same time, right?
That's true.
You're not supposed to do that.
I believe it's a technique. You have to learn that technique.
Well, it's taken me a lifetime to learn these techniques. And I teach these techniques. The people that are my clients learn how to do this work with themselves, because part of transformation and the difference between transformation and therapy, okay? And I'm going to tell you, give me the opportunity to do this, okay? And that's what I really wanted to talk about today is one of the differences. Therapy assumes that something is wrong here, yes?
Yeah.
Something's wrong here. I'm broken, or I'm hindered in some way, or another way of saying it is that I am a victim. I am a victim of the past, something that happened in the past, or maybe many things that happened, so I'm a victim of the past. I'm a victim of my circumstances. I'm a victim of my limited abilities. Either, you know, I'm too tall or too short, or I'm a woman, or I'm a man, or, you know, or I'm Persian, or I'm black or white or Chinese or whatever I am. And so because of that, so the word because, okay, we'll come back to that word in a minute, but the word, whatever you assign cause to, is very, very, very crucial. And if you say, I am this way because of anything else, right? Because of that, because of that, because of that, anything that you say because of that is outside yourself is a lie. It's a lie that we tell ourselves, and everybody agrees about it. And then we go gathering agreement. I am the way I am because I don't have an education. I am the way I am because I was born to a poor family, or whatever, right?
Yes.
So that's a lie. You are not that way because of anything outside of yourself. And so the entire model of traditional therapies has always been to treat the person for something that's wrong with them because of something outside of them. Do you see? Something they had no control over, something they couldn't help, something they were a victim of. So to treat a person as if they were a victim is already a lie. Do you see? It's an inauthentic relationship to spiritual reality. It's inauthentic. And so to treat somebody as if there was something wrong with them because of something that happened to them is inauthentic to begin with. So that's one model. It's been working for years. I don't want to get a million calls from a bunch of therapists saying, hey, what are you talking about? You're disrespecting my thing. I mean no disrespect. I'm just calling it like I see it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a PhD. I'm a guy that has lived a full life and that has helped thousands and thousands of people, though. So I'm not just some guy on a bus, okay? Just talking. I'm talking from my experience. So, you know, you might want to try on and see if this fits. If it doesn't, throw it away. Right? If what I'm saying doesn't match your reality, you're welcome to disagree with it or just to simply not use it.
You're absolutely
go someplace else.
Right.
But
you're absolutely right.
Then there's another.
They're thinking about something that not reality.
Yeah, there's another model we as human beings have advanced exponentially. In my lifetime, there wasn't even color television. Forget about cell phones and iPods and stuff like that. There wasn't even color TV. Jet airplanes didn't exist, when I was a kid. So that's how fast we've gone in just 50 years. Can you imagine? If we're using a model for treating people psychologically that was invented a couple hundred years ago, 100 and some odd years ago, right? It's an older model. So we as human beings, and the technology of dealing with people and dealing with people is not a powerful way to say it. The technology of causing transformation in people and allowing people to have insights has developed. In Zen or Tibetan or many old ancient technologies, you'd sit and stare at a wall for a few years, or you'd go hang out in a cave, or you would sit at the feet of a wise man and he'd tell you everything until you finally got it. Or you'd you'd go be a monk and rest in silence and pray for 50 years. Those were technologies and they worked, but they were slow technologies. Now, today, there are technologies that are very, very rapid, and in which you could have a person see on their own. I don't do it to you. I don't do anything to my patients or clients. I simply interact with them in such a way that they begin to see the truth for themselves. I don't tell them what's true, but we have a question and answer inquiry session in which we begin to realize over, the course of an hour or so that, I could actually be responsible for my life. So in the model of therapy, the model of NLP and hypnotherapy and the technology, the advanced neurological repatterning that I'm using today, we come from the assumption that you are whole and complete, you are not broken, and there's nothing wrong. You're a normal, healthy person, and you may have some thoughts that are hindering you from being effective in your life. You may have some thoughts and some patterns and some ways of being that are keeping you from being fully self-expressed, experiencing happiness and fulfillment. We go to the place where that is stored in your neurology and we literally erase it like that. Now, I'm going to go back to the CD from earlier. Remember, I said if you put a CD in a machine, it'll always play the same song, right?
That's right.
Now, what if we took that CD and we melted it? Will it play the song? Never again, right?
That's right.
Never play the song again. Or we could scratch it up or something else or put it in there. Or there's something called rewritable discs, okay, where you can actually erase the disc and you can write a new song on there, a new program. Okay? So what we do in advanced neurological repatterning is we literally destroy the old patterns that have held you back. You can hang on to the ones that you find useful. The subconscious mind will not let go of things it's not ready to let go of. So if it finds something useful, it'll hang on to it. I don't have to worry about it, and neither do you, because nobody can get you to do something that your subconscious mind doesn't want to do. So if your subconscious mind, who's truly in charge of your life, says wants to hang on to something, it does. But we take all of the unuseful things that are causing negative effects in your life, and we simply erase them, destroy them, delete them, just like you could highlight a paragraph in a document on your computer and push delete, and it's gone. You empty the trash and it's out of there. It can't come back. Then you type in what you want. You program in what it is that you want. And so I work with people not just to help them get rid of old patterns that are holding them back, but literally to design a life that is fulfilling and that is an expression of their true inner self, the real them that they've just discovered. And when you discover this, you're moved to tears. It's powerful. That's why I call it a breakthrough, because you move through barrier that may have held you back your entire lifetime, and you find yourself on the other side of something, looking back, and what used to hold you back seems small and insignificant compared to what you now see. There was a time you couldn't tie your shoes, and now that seems small and insignificant. It's unbelievable for you to even be considering that, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's just like not even an issue for you anymore. Driving a car, not an issue. Getting yourself dressed, you couldn't do that in the beginning. Now you do that anytime you want, right? So there's lots of things that can hold you back for 30, 40, 50, 60, an entire lifetime. And some people live their entire lifetime, most people do, inside of certain barriers that are constructed by their mind only. They're not real barriers. They're only barriers in their thinking, and they've been reinforced over time and time again, so that they become a reality. They become the reality that the person spends their entire lifetime in. And then that kind of a person, the only person they can attract into their life, like a mate or friends and stuff, are people who are in that same kind of category. In other words, people kind of like on the same, I'm going to say, vibratory level, the same level of energetic vibration. You will attract people like you, and you'll be attracted to them because they're like you and because they validate who you think you are.
That's right. That's right. I have a test on Wednesday, but after that I was going to sign up for a women's only workshop for this January 31st. I hope, I'm able to go there because it's some other stuff is going on in my life, but I'm sure this time I'm gonna really think about that because sometimes it really gets so much energy from you, you know. So
please do break through those.
Thank you so much. I got my answer, and you're always good, and I love your shows, and I love Dr. Dasayan, and thank you so much for your time.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for watching my show, and thanks for calling. And just allow what you've just taken in. Write it down. Take notes. In other words, lock it in. When I just gave you a lot of information, and some of it's pretty advanced. So take the time to, there's gathering, there's locking it in, and sometimes that just means to write down some notes just so it doesn't go away, right? Some of the things that you just got. And then share it with one other person or two other people. In other words, talk about it. That's 3 phases of learning, and I suggest you do that on your test as well. How you know something is you can teach it to someone else. You can tell someone about it. Take it in, write it down, or lock it in, what I call locking it in, and then share, even if it's just, whatever level of sharing. Don't worry about getting it right. Share what you understood. Then you'll find that you'll be able to integrate this thinking into your life, and then it'll allow it to influence you so that you can have the breakthroughs that you're really looking to have.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, have a good day.
Bye-bye. I'm talking today about the difference between change or getting better or tolerating or overcoming issues in life and actually transforming the quality of your life, transforming life itself such that, or so that, you can deal with the problems and the circumstances and the issues that come up in your life easily, effortlessly, and in a way that will move your life forward instead of doing what we call looping, always the same problem. Have you ever noticed that you have issues that you've had since you were a little kid or since you were a teenager or a young adult, and the same issue keeps coming up over and over and over again, and it goes through a cycle? And we call this cyclical or cyclic change, okay? It moves through a cycle, and it reaches its apex or its highest, most intense point where there's a breakdown, and then you drop back down to the bottom again. And oh my God, why is this happening to me again? Oh, well, I know how to fix it. And so you go about finding a solution to fix this problem, and then you get this problem fixed, and then you get up to a certain place in your life where, it's all great, and then it all breaks down again because it starts to look familiar, and then you drop back down again. And people can spend their entire life moving through cycles of cyclical change. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we do at Embrace Growth. Embrace Growth implies, in the very name of it, it implies taking hold of those issues and hanging on to them, bringing them into yourself. Stop looking for the solution outside yourself and really begin to literally close your eyes and go within. Not close your eyes so you don't see the problem, okay? This is different. This is seeing with the inner eye, seeing with the inner voice, the inner soul, that part of you that is connected and real, that part of you that's really you, that's always been you. It's been you no matter what kind of hairstyle you had, or what makeup you put on, or what shoes you wore, or what kind of car you drove, or how much money you made, or how much education you've got, or who you've been married to or not married to. It's always been you. There's a part of you that you know what I'm talking about is true. It's true. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then I'm especially speaking to you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that part of you that's true, then please find a venue in your life. Therapy's one. Getting a great coach, I happen to know one or two, is a good idea. Reading, studying, meditating, practicing something. All those things that they call spiritual practices are simply that. They're practices. You show me a great pianist and I'll show you somebody who spent hours and hours playing the scales very boringly over and over. And the really great ones continue to play them throughout their lifetime. They never stop practicing. Spiritual practice or emotional practice or the practice of an art like romantic relationship or the art of loving, the art of listening and receiving, the art of communication is a practice. You know, if you're a doctor, you know, you get your degree, you study all the theory, you learn all the stuff, you get all the notes, but it doesn't mean you know everything. It just means that you know how to go find it in your notes, or you know where to research it and look for it. You know, so then you begin your practice, and a practice is how long? It's your whole life. A practice is a lifetime pathway. And so we're talking about changing your path so that you stop trying to accumulate knowledge and learn all the tips and techniques thinking that something out there is going to fix you, and you start practicing what you already know. You already know this stuff. Hello, this is Gregory. You're live on the air.
Hello?
Hello, hi. You've reached Love Talk and you're live on the air.
Yeah, well aware of that.
Okay, great. Do you have a question?
Yes, Gregory, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
In any event, my son going to be 18
Yes.
and has a girlfriend.
Good for him. Maybe.
Not that, excuse me?
I said good for him, maybe.
Yeah, it is good for him because it's really helping his self-confidence and whatnot.
Okay, good.
But the thing is that they're not as intimate as a man and woman are.
Yeah, well.
But they do things that teenagers do.
God knows what that is, because when I was a teenager, we did just about everything. So I don't know what they're doing today, but anyhow, I'm just making jokes. I don't mean to make light of your situation. So you're, he's 18, so he's feeling his testosterone about now.
He's pretty conservative about, not to pass his limit.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he's very responsible in that respect. But at the same token, when she's at my place, she is going to be 16.
Yeah.
Very young, and she probably doesn't know what exactly she's doing. So when she came to my place, I see them very comfortable being very close to each other.
Okay.
They really don't care that I walk into the room.
Okay. Well, welcome to the new generation, yeah?
Yeah, but I didn't feel comfortable with it, and I said that, you know what, this is a sacred thing. Sacred thing that has to be kept secret. This is between you and my son. I am not supposed to be witnessing it. I'm not. I don't like to see it.
All right.
I don't think it's appropriate what you're doing. You're welcome to do whatever you want out of this house, but this is not for the respect of this house. As long as you live in this house, you have to respect me and your father and your sister. And this, what you're doing, is not acceptable.
Well, I think that's great. I think it's being a parent. You know, there's it's not so much about whether or not they're being close and intimate, which is one thing, of course, but there's behavior that is conducive to public life and behavior that's conducive to private life, and if he doesn't know the difference, where's he going to learn it except from his parents, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, you don't go making out in a restaurant. So why would you? Or you don't go over to somebody's house and sit down on the couch in their living room and start,
making love.
Yeah. You have a certain amount of social decorum and boundaries that are normal, and we get those from our parents. Hopefully, if we don't, then they get imposed by someone perhaps later on. If we don't raise our kids, then they get raised by their peers.
Right.
Yeah, and good luck with that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so I think what you're doing is good. It's saying, look, there's things that are private and there's things that are public, and when I'm here, it's public. There's three of us.
By me walking, they were together in the room, so I walked in and I said, you know what, I love you. I told to the girl, I said, I love you. But if you're thinking about having a future with my son, that, as kids, they always talk about, we're going to get married and we're going to, love each other for life and, things that teenagers first, they go through with first love.
Right. And you and I both know that the likelihood of that, just statistically, that they would actually stay with each other for life is kind of...
It's zero. It's not low, but it's zero. I am aware of, and
Yeah.
I'm well aware of that, but
Yeah.
I can't just walk in and say...
This is never really going to go anywhere, so watch out what you're doing, because, yeah.
I say, if you're thinking about having a future with my son,
Yeah.
that's not the way to do it. You're hiding it from your parents, and for as long as you're hiding something, that means you're doing something wrong.
Listen, she's a minor. You're an adult. You're kind of responsible when she's in your household.
That's what.
And guess what?
I said, if God forbid and something happens.
Guess what? Your son's an adult too. He would be tried as an adult.
I know that.
Okay.
Know
Just so
that.
does he know it?
If something happens, nothing is going to happen.
Does he know that?
Oh yes, he knows that.
Okay, good.
He knows that. He's very responsible. He's a good boy.
All right.
But he was very upset the way I approached them yesterday, and she's calling me and telling me, I thought your son told me that you're okay with it. I said, I'm okay with what? To be standing there and watching you kissing? That's not the way it should be. You're a child, and you're going to thank me when you're 66 years old.
Yeah, be a lady. Ladies don't do that. If your mother hasn't taught you that, I'm teaching you as a responsible woman. My wife wrote a book called Girl Talk, also do workshops for women called the Women Only Workshop. So much of the wisdom that has been passed down from generation to generation through the women, from woman to woman, from woman to girl, for centuries, has somehow gotten dropped out in the last couple of generations. Have you noticed? There's been a lot of things happening, like the 60s, for example. A lot of things happened, and in the up until a certain period, and I was born before that period, and then was part of that 60s revolution, if you will, in which before that, to be a rule keeper was an honorable thing to do. In other words, you were respected for that, right? Mm-hmm. If you did things the right way and so forth, people looked up to you and respected you. Then in the 60s, everything changed and it got reversed. Now, if you were a rule keeper, you were a square, you were lame, you were like old hat. And only rule breakers were in charge, you see? And to be a rule breaker was cool, it was hip. The long hair, the drugs, and the rock and roll was all about breaking the rules. Well, there were some rules that kind of needed to get broken, okay? Mm-hmm. But now, guess who the parents are now? The rule-breaking generation. That's the parents, right? Either the rule breaker generation or their children are now parents.
I am from where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I was born those years as well.
Yeah.
Before 60s, and I am, I'm carrying some values.
Exactly. Well, I was one of the rule breakers too back then, and we sort of made our own rules, and I wouldn't have it be any other way.
Until you came to your senses.
Well, it's not that I came to my senses. Like, what's cool is to do what works. There's certain things that work. There's certain rules that actually work, right? Like, you don't make out in front of your boyfriend's mother. That doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's not cool, but if you don't say something, she won't know that it's not cool.
I had no choice.
Yeah.
I had no choice, but I'm sorry that I approached her the way I did.
Well, yeah, you may have had a little an emotional charge on it, like anger or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not upset with me, but she doesn't understand. She says, I thought it's okay.
Yeah. Well, she probably does. She's probably been around other mothers or something that turned away from that, looked away and allowed it or something. I don't know. Who knows who's been raising her,
Well, I don't mind my son having fun.
Sure.
Because every mother would like, their son to have as much
fun as they could get.
Well, I hope he has fun too, and that he keeps safe, and that I'm sure with you around, he's going to grow up to be a great gentleman. And thank you for taking responsibility for letting them know where some social boundaries are. Now they're giving me a signal saying that my boundaries are up, so my time is up, and so I'm going to move on. Thank you for watching my show. Thanks for your questions and for.
Gregory, I really am glad I could talk to you. You're always a great help.
Thank you so much. Well,
I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching me today. I hope you learned something. If you did, write it down and share it with someone so that it becomes yours, okay? So that the knowledge becomes your wisdom, not mine, but yours. That would be the greatest way to thank me, is when you integrate it in your life and make the changes. All right? I'll see you again on Love Talk.
سلام، من رضا هستم و کارگاه آنلاین سوم خانم دکتر رو شرکت کردم. خارق‌العاده باش، میتونم بگم که برعکس اون چیزی که فکر میکردم سورپرایز شدم. فوق‌العاده بود. یک سری چارچوب‌های ذهنی و محدودیت‌های ذهنی که داشتم مخصوصا در مورد پول و کار به طور کلی برطرف شد و از اون روز واقعا احساس پر انرژی بودن و احساس فوق‌العاده‌ای دارم و مطمئنم که میتونم هر چی که میخوام خلق کنم.
Welcome to the Embrace Growth app. There's a new way to communicate and join in. Create your free account online and sign into the app. Manage your profile on the go and choose between English or Farsi. Register for events and schedule appointments more easily than ever. Stream audio, video, and download books all over Wi-Fi or cellular. Sign up for workshops and seminars right on your phone. And access your audio and video library in the palm of your hand. Take your favorite lessons from Dr. Azita Sayan and Mr. Gregory Morgan with you. Download it today on the App Store. A haven for the weary soul. A source of inspiration and community. Redesigned to bring you meaningful experiences and unforgettable events. We are a worldwide community of vibrant individuals, displayed in the people who are a part of it, from many nations, backgrounds, and beliefs. Through powerful outreach programs, the struggles of everyday life are confronted and conquered, transforming those who participate into the best versions of themselves. One-on-one sessions are available to keep you headed in the right direction, coupled with the best resources to remind you how to live, whether at home or elsewhere. Programs designed for men, providing the building blocks of maturity, commitment, integrity, and leadership, paving the way for productive and fulfilling manhood. Beyond an understanding of masculine leadership is its application in daily life and development into something truly unique. Exclusive training for women, encouraging growth and empowerment through an acceptance of their true identities, redefining interactions, and changing the viewpoint through which life is seen. Embracing the woman within and accessing facets of your personality hidden beneath the surface. Showing our youth the value of integrity and reliability by creating an indwelling desire to succeed with honor, basing the future on a solid foundation of ideals that will guide them through life, leading by example, and showing others how to clearly convey their thoughts in a compelling way, creating a culture of mature leaders who can help others achieve self-confidence and their goals. Real people and real lives are changed for the better. With every event, more are touched and come to an understanding of their place in this world and their community. Embrace Growth is run by a passionate team and led by the diligence and inspiration of Dr. Azita Sayan and Mr. Gregory Morgan, who consistently teach life lessons based on what works, rather than the passing fads of the times.